Thinking Project is your podcast. Dalton is your name.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to hear kind of like where you started, because you decided to start a podcast during COVID, which a great time to start. I mean, everyone's on the internet.
Yeah.
But B, also kind of a little scary because people are like afraid to take big risks right now because of COVID. They want to stay more conservative, it seems like.
Yeah, I think for me, starting the Thinking Project was about exactly what you said. There's a lot of people who didn't want to take risk. A lot of businesses, I noticed, small businesses stopped advertising. And so I wanted to give them an outlet, small businesses an outlet to come on, tell their story, get their business out there, because it's just, a lot of businesses just, they were cutting where they could.
Yeah.
And I wanted to help get people's names out there. So that was the original thought behind it. I was like, dude, I need, like, these businesses can't suffer.
Right.
Or at least if I can help somebody get a name out there, get their business out there, and keep rolling, like I was going to try.
Well, and I think that's amazing because, like you said, people are so afraid. Like, even still, I mean, we're what, almost 11 months into COVID.
Yeah,
and it's not letting up.
No.
We're seeing more and more cases come in, and you see the articles where people are losing their businesses because people are afraid to either go out and eat, or they're afraid to go out to these mom and pop shops. Like, they're so focused on, hey, I need to get my things and survive, because we're in this like panic mode. And I think it's wonderful what you're doing. Like I told you before, I've been tuning in and watching, and I think that just, we need more people who are willing to, because you're putting yourself out there, but you're doing it to help people.
Yeah. And and for the business owners, like we were talking about this earlier, a lot of people won't listen to an ad. I don't even listen to the radio, bro.
No.
You know what I'm saying? I don't watch TV. You know what I'm saying?
Same.
Like Netflix, stream. So like these, people as consumers, they want to hear like the real story. Mm-hmm. And so that was my whole goal. There's a lot of other business podcasts out there, especially like locally, that focus on the businesses, or they focus on like their friends or something like that. And I care about the story. Like I think that's been a huge thing for me. Like, we get businesses on here, but I've heard some crazy stories, man.
Well, I think too that it's just, I think that it's interesting to hear, like I was telling you, like from a consumer point of view, if I'm thinking about a project, or I'm thinking about like maybe a new local store or a new local restaurant, and I actually get to hear from the person who's behind the counter, and it's not this like, hey, I mean, I gotta say what I have to say, but they're they're being themselves. Like, we're all people at the end of the day, and it's cool to hear that like authenticity from somebody. Yeah,
there's no facades when you come on the show.
Right.
Like, I tell people a few questions that I ask, but otherwise it's pretty unscripted. There's preparation for the guest, but what's cool is, I'll tell them like, hey, I mostly want to hear about your story, but then, we let the conversation go wherever it goes, and you get really cool stuff. You just hear people's, what they did before this, why they got into business. And then, like, for consumers, right, you can go support the store, you can go support the shop, which you should do. But then, like, people realize, like, hey, if these guys are doing this, these guys live the lifestyle that I want to live, or they're not too much different than me. Maybe there's something I can do to also monetize the skills that I have. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, we're in the day and age of where we can monetize pretty much anything. And it just it takes the knowledge, and it takes the effort.
Yeah.
Because you can't just walk into something day one and beg, here's the money,
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, if you have a dream, even if it's from, because like I've had people on who make earrings.
Yeah.
And that's their whole entire dream.
It's dope.
And they monetize it.
They're
making money.
They make money off of it. Yeah. So I interviewed a guy on my podcast who, when we started, he's telling me his whole story. He starts this really successful business in his late 30s, early 40s. Like, totally he's got family and everything, but he finds a way. He realizes that he wants to change his life. And I'm like, dude, that's sweet. And here's what he does. He starts making stuff that he would normally make at home. So it's a restaurant, and he makes the stuff at home. And he's like, why don't we make a business out of it? And it's just stuff that he made at home. And it's crazy because and you can listen to the podcast, but but it's crazy. People don't realize like their skills are something that people would pay for. And I think it's because some people are not confident. Some people might be a little too humble.
Yeah.
You can get that. And then some people just don't know that, like, people, I do this people will be like, dude, I do this every day. Why would somebody pay for this? But people do.
Yeah,
man.
people do.
Well, we were talking about gaming before this.
Who
thought, like 10 years ago, who thought you'd make 6, 7, 8 figures on gaming?
Oh, not a single person. Like,
dude, it's not.
Because like it used to be, like I said, like it would be like almost taboo in a way. Like dude. You're that kid who's in your parents' basement just gaming away. But now the reality is, like, you take the time, set up a Twitch stream, and next thing you know, you could be the next. You
could make money out of it.
$30,000 a month.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And people don't. And people also realize, like, I think another thing with the podcast that I want people to realize is, like, I honestly try to stay away from, like, the super big guys. I want to stay local. Like, I have some, like, if you're successful, like, we want you on, right? But for the most part, like, no big chains, no big anything, because I want people to realize too that doesn't necessarily have to be your goal for you to be happy and to be successful. Like, dude, if you can make 10, 11, 12 grand a month or 5, 6 grand a month on something you earn, on something that you just do every day, like, that's it, man.
Or even the passion, if you just love it.
If you just love it. And see, people start this process with, like, I want to be the next, like, Jeff Bezos, or I want to be the next something. And, like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And there's people out there who are going to do that. But there's also people out there who don't like that lifestyle.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, traveling every day, meetings every day. You know.
And I think too, we're in an age where there's this weird, I almost call it a problem, but it's also a positive, where we see social media and we can get on and we see these amazing things. But I think people have to remember that, it doesn't happen overnight. And you have to, you really have to sit down and be realistic with yourself.
Yeah.
And I always go back to the story. Do you know the band Megadeth?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I always forget the main singer's name. It always slips my mind. But he used to be in Metallica.
Oh, yes.
And when he left Metallica, his whole entire goal was like, I'm going to be bigger than Metallica. I'm going to be the best. Metallica's going to be number 2 to me. And part of him, like, I listened to an interview, and he still feels like he's a failure because he didn't get bigger than Metallica. But it's Megadeth. Almost everyone knows who Megadeth is.
Knows who Megadeth.
And it's, I'm a firm believer that set your goals high, but you got to be realistic with yourself.
Yeah.
You got some comments here?
Yeah, I was looking at some of them. I thought they were kind of cool. I like that live.
Yeah.
The chat, man.
It throws a loop sometimes.
But yeah, no, I think that people, when you talk about, like, scaling your business or things like that, like, the people that I've interviewed, I've just noticed that it's just what you're saying. Like, they love what they do, but they think there's a purpose behind it. Like, they have some kind of purpose behind what they're doing, and they also like have some consistency.
Yes.
Like, that's a big thing. And I know that that's a word, like, that gets thrown around with, like, all the gurus and stuff like that, but it's consistency in, what you put out, the content that you put out, and then, like, dude, your brand is you. You know what I mean? Like, you could be selling the same thing everybody else sells, but you're going to get one thing different, and that's me.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm setting up a business.
And I think that goes back to the confidence in a way too, because if you're confident with yourself and you want to create something, that product's going to do well.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it is. And I agree with you. Like, people throw consistency in a lot of these other, what people call cliche statements out here. Yeah. There's a reason they're cliche.
But yeah, dude, yeah. And that's what I wanted people to get. So I almost wish there was, like, another word for it. And maybe I'll find it later. But, consistency is like what it is, man. It's not, you don't start out with money in mind.
Yeah.
At least you shouldn't. Like, a successful business starts out with making a difference and their purpose and all these wonderful things. And then it turns into money because people realize, like, that I can pay for that. And then you just treat people like people. Then you got customer service. And that's what I've learned from, like, being a business owner. And then, because I own an e-commerce business. And then I have my podcast. And then I've just been in sales forever. And if you can treat somebody right and give them a fair deal, like, dude, you got customers for life.
Oh, I mean, it's so... I was talking to Morgan. Shout outs to Morgan.
Yeah.
It's... when you really build a relationship with a customer instead of just looking them as money, it changes the whole dynamic. You know, if I work with, let's say, Morgan, who I want to in the future, he will always have my business because he treats me like another person. He doesn't treat me like a number. Right. You know, and sales, I know that sales have kind of started to transition it more into that dynamic instead of just like, hey, like, come over and buy this product.
like some vacuum salesman or something. I
am curious, though. So you own an e-commerce store or e-commerce business. Tell me what started with that. So, like, the people who watch your podcast can kind of get the backstory of you.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a cool story. So I have 2 other business partners who are in this with me, and we started. But I'll tell you the story. So we were like, I was working at a car dealership, and I just wanted to sell something. I wanted to start an e-commerce business, and I just remembered saying every day, like, I want to start a business. I want to sell something. I want to do something online. And we're bouncing, and I'm with my, actually the guy who was with me. Worked in the dealership with me, and we were bouncing ideas off of each other one night when it was we were done working and bouncing ideas off of each other. And I was like, "What if we sell this? What if we sell this?" And I had a few ideas, and none of them were like really cooking. And he had a few, and I was like, "Meh." But he said CBD, so we sell CBD. And when he said CBD, dude, like I had tunnel vision. I was like, "Yes!" Like that was the first time that I was like, "That's it. Like I've got to try this because if I don't, I'm going to like regret this for the rest of my life, dude." So we started, so then we got a third guy involved who did this. And I've kind of taken the back seat a little bit on it because I like the accounting side. So I got my bachelor's degree in accounting.
Awesome.
And so that's what I run, and I kind of let them run the show. But we started selling CBD online, dude. And it's called Happiest. And we sell really good CBD for like half the price. And we found a local wholesaler here in Utah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Dude, it was sweet. So we got to support a local business, to be a local business. And then we just started selling CBD. And dude, I knew nothing about CBD.
Right.
Like I had to learn like the lingo. I didn't know what full spectrum was. I didn't know what broad spectrum meant. I didn't know that you could, that you had gummies and that it's actually a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Like
the business is booming.
My girlfriend, her son actually has to take CBD for some health issues. And
yeah, dude.
Like I take it from time to time. It is literally one of the best products you can get out there because like it helps with so many different elements.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like long week, you're kind of tired, but you can't sleep.
Dude, CBD. Yeah, we have a sleep aid, dude, that knocks you out. And that's the thing. Like, and so when I started it, people were like, why are you selling CBD and all this stuff? But that's the other thing. Back up. Like, I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that I wanted to do it. And for people, like the business owners that I interview in my experience was like, dude, if you want to do it, the question isn't like, if you can or whatever. It's like, how bad do you want it?
Right.
And then what are you willing to do it? And I think that that's probably the most important thing that I've seen with these guys who I interview with, who I get to interact with every day, are like, dude, they just want it. These guys want it, man. And so I wanted it. So I read everything. I looked at what the big guys were doing. We found, we made our own little brand. But CBD is incredible, dude. Not a lot of people know about it either.
And I think that, how long have you had this CBD?
So we went, funny enough, dude, we started this business in February, man.
No, really?
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
And we've just been killing it. Like, it's not a big ticket item. So, and I don't think CBD should be a big ticket item.
No, definitely not.
Like, you've seen some of these guys, bro. Like, you go to CBDMD or Charlotte's Web or these guys, they're $150 a bottle if you want some good stuff.
Yeah.
Or you can get like the 250 milligram, which is like nothing.
And it's tough to break the bank for something that, if you go shop around, you're going to find a better product at a cheaper price.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's the thing. That's why I'm just waiting for, because CBD is legal under the 2018 Farm Bill.
Right.
I'm just waiting for marijuana to be.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to end the prohibition. It's 2020. Yeah, I can't believe that marijuana is still illegal.
Yeah, I know.
It's ridiculous, bro. And I'm a pretty conservative guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a pretty conservative guy.
It's crazy, too, to go to states where it's legal.
Yeah.
Because the whole entire dynamic is just, it's different.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I went to Wendover, and, you know, there's a giant facility. Like, we're talking, like, a giant facility.
Yeah.
My curiosity, I had to go see. I'm like,
yeah, dude,
this has got to be weird, right?
Yeah.
This is what cracked me up, right? Walk through the door. Front desk lady's like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, great. And she's like, are you signed up with our rewards program?
Dude, that's nuts, man.
And it's all professional. Everyone's in nice clothing.
Yeah, it's not like a weird grungy thing.
No,
anymore. It's professional, bro.
Yeah,
these guys are making money.
Very professional, and the cool thing is too is like the spectrum of customers that were in there.
Yeah.
There was a guy in there like suited up.
Yeah.
You know, just looking business, and he's got like just mounds of things.
Yeah.
And then you got guys who are just your casuals, you know, just hanging out. Like they look like they came up to Wendover for some fun.
Yeah.
So it's just cool to see, and I agree with you. Like, I think that marijuana, when it does become legal, I imagine it will, but it's going to be huge.
Well, and so that one thing we learned, I think that was the best thing I did, was getting into e-commerce and starting with CBD, and that was the worst thing I did, because it's not the same. Like, you can't advertise on any social media, your CBD on any social media, unless you're sneaky about it.
Wait, what do you mean? So you can't
like I can't paid advertisements.
Really?
Yeah.
Just because it's CBD.
Because it's CBD. Because like Facebook and Instagram, they're the same. But Reddit, Twitter, like these guys won't let you run. LinkedIn won't let you run paid ads because it's marijuana related, right? So it's funky, right? So, and there's merchants that won't let you go with them if you're CBD. You're considered high risk. Like in the same category as like what are some other high risk online businesses, like
vape, probably.
Vapes, vapes, you know, like day trading, like consulting, stuff like that. So you're in the same category. So it's super hard to find a merchant, super hard to advertise, super hard to find a bank that will let you your business take your money.
That's so, it's
Dude,
weird
it's
too,
tricky.
because you would think, because there's lots of money.
Yeah, dude.
There's lots of money
lots of money. Yeah.
And I'm so surprised that people are still.
Well, it's just like you can do it.
Yeah.
You just got to know the right people.
Right.
And you got to do the right thing. You know what I mean? And that's why it was so hard. Like it was like if you were to do like a drop shipping company, very easy. Go to Wix or Shopify, find a company. You want to sell sunglasses and flip flops? Go find a distributor, right? Set up your company. You can start a drop shipping company for like $150.
Right.
And you have merchanting, you can have a bank, you can advertise on social media, but with CBD, you can't do any of that.
That's so strange. I didn't know that.
Weird. It's trippy, dude. And so that's why but I loved it, because now I have this story that I can tell that you can, if you want it bad enough, there's an obstacle. Every time I hit a brick wall, it was like, dude, I know there's people out here doing this.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Every time I got a merchant account that said no, every time I got a bank that said no, I was like, dude, these guys are making millions. There's got to be a way I can do this. You know what I mean? And so I just kept going until I found it.
Wow.
Until I found somebody who was like, yeah, we'll bank with you. You know, yeah, we'll let you bank with us. Yep, you can have a merchant account. Yep, you can whatever, right? Weird, bro.
That is weird. That is a good story to have, though, because the cool thing about that too is if you ever decide that you want to go down a different path with a different e-commerce like store or whatever, probably be a cakewalk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I've been thinking about like drop shipping some stuff, and I'm like, this is gonna be easy. It's gonna be easy because you already know. And then I tell people too, like when they want to start a business, I'm like, just be ready for a lot of brick walls because you're just gonna have to climb them, and that's what makes local businesses so good. Like, dude, Amazon, Walmart, these guys, like, they're too big to fail. And sometimes that's with CBD, right? Like, if you have cash, if you have some capital behind you, if you got investors behind you, you can get away with some things.
Sure.
And I learned that. Like, even with CBD, like, if you got enough money, people will say yes. You know what I'm saying? And so, the local businesses, it's a beautiful thing to see the struggle almost. Like, I'm from a philosophy where like struggles and trials, like they're sacred.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like they're beautiful things that you should not run away from.
No, and I think too, like, I don't mean this in a rude way towards people, but like if you are someone who may have been blessed with having a lot of things gave to you in certain ways, and you haven't had to actually deal with those struggles, you're actually missing out on a large part of life that makes life amazing.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that feels better than like just in the dirt clawing at something for hours and hours and hours, and then finally it breaks and you're like,
oh. Well, I think those people get a disadvantage because it happens to no matter what. Like at some point in your life, you know, back to this kind of philosophy that I have. At some point in your life, you're going to get punched in the face, and it's going to really suck. And that's the beautiful thing about getting punched in the face, like, and these trials and struggles and things, is they're different for everybody, but they're the same kind of like hurt. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you know, like Warren Buffett could lose millions in a day. He loses more money in a day on a bad deal than I would make in my whole entire lifetime. Right. Too, you know what I'm saying? But that doesn't make his trial any less than mine, because we have to learn the same things. And so people also get in this thing of like, you know, it kind of bugs me when people say, you know, like, oh, well, at least I'm not as bad as so and so.
Right.
Like, you don't. I always tell people, like, don't worry about that, man.
Yeah.
This is you. This is all you. Yeah. This is your trial. This is your struggle. This is your business. Like, don't worry. You know, at least we're not having to go out of business. Like, hey, man, you better worry about you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it might.
Yeah, it might happen. Well, and I think, too, like, comparing yourself to other businesses, like, I think it has an importance in a way, but, like, if you're so focused on, like, someone else's either failures or successes, and you can't just tunnel yourself, it's going to be bad in the long run.
Right. Well, people without egos, so the ego tells you to compete with other people, right? Not having an ego or suppressing your ego tells you that you have to be better than you, that the only real competition you have in this life is you.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And so that's also one thing that I'm able to talk with business owners about on the podcast is that you know, you drive that ego out and you become successful. Although, you know, that confidence helps you out. So there's a difference between confidence and ego.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I mean, you got to be confident in what you're bringing to the table. But if you're arrogant about what you're bringing to the table, no one's going to
Yeah. And so there's that fine line. So you teach confidence when you're talking with prospective business owners, people who want to be entrepreneurs. You talk about competence, you know, knowing things. And then you talk about, confidence, competence, and then you talk about consistency, right? And so those are the three things that I tell people. Like, if you want to be good at anything, you got to be confident, competent, and consistent.
There's one, too, that I've been throwing out there that's another C that a lot of people are starting to kind of agree in a sense is capacity.
Yeah.
Because I really think that, like, as you're starting either a business or you're starting a podcast or whatever it is your venture might be, like, you're going to either overwhelm yourself to a point where you're exhausted, or you're going to not do enough and you're not going to feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I really, at least from what I'm starting to realize with what I'm doing, like, the more that I put on myself, even if I get super stressed out or I have like a bad week or whatever it might be, it's building this capacity to be able to go with that level of work further. And then the next month, add more. Keep building that capacity and like trying to create the best version of yourself that can take on so much work.
Oh yeah, man. And that's the thing. I think capacity is right there, because a lot of people, you know, they can scale too quick, dude. Like, as an accountant, you would be surprised how many businesses don't fail because they're not profitable. Like, most businesses fail because they scale too quickly. Like think about think about like my store, right? Let's say I blow 10 grand in advertising and I get 1,000 orders, right? If I don't have enough to fulfill 1,000 orders, my merchants leave, my customers get pissed, I lose so much money.
Right.
More money than I would have made. You know, I would have lost more money than I would have made if I was ready to handle that. And so people, like, capacity is a good one, dude, because you can scale too quick.
Yeah.
You can bite off more than you can chew. And some people will tell you that's a good problem. But like I said, man, If you can't fulfill it,
it would be a good problem if you're ready.
If you were ready, you'd be like, let's
go.
Like a good problem in that case would be like not having enough people to fulfill the order,
right?
Because you could get out there and start working yourself,
right? Which is always you got. What's the old thing to put your bootstraps on or whatever?
That's right,
like,
man.
That's another one of those cliche statements in business nowadays. We're like, bootstraps, but like, dude, it's true.
And you know what? Like if I'm talking to somebody and we're talking about like starting a business or something, I tell them to stay away from like the gurus. Yeah. Because they talk. First of all, they're so general, which is fine. Like, dude, if you're a business coach or a social media guru, like, go make your money, man.
For sure.
Like, do what you got to do. Go get your paper. But if I'm telling like a small business owner, I'm like, I need you to dial back a little bit because they get, so and so told me this. Gary V said this, and I'm like, dude, I love Gary V.
Yeah.
And I love these guys, right? But you need to focus on, the small steps that you need to take to get it. And then they, and there's always information overload when you hear these guys. Like, they can almost talk in a language that if you're not familiar with business or like being an entrepreneur, like that can go over your head.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
What I'm saying?
And I think too, like the problem, because I love Gary Vee too.
Yeah,
and like
dude,
some of these other
he's
guys.
a stud, yeah.
But I see people who are in, either my inner circle who are trying to start stuff because they watch a Gary Vee TikTok or something like that. And like, oh, I'm all about this. And then like 6 months in, they're not at Gary Vee now and they're now discouraged.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, you can't. Like,
dude. Yeah, you can start comparing yourself to these guys. Yeah. And now listen, the information that you get from these guys is very good. Yeah. But I think to your point, like you also have to be very real with your expectations. Like, I love Gary Vee, and the reason I love him so much is because he'll tell these guys that entrepreneurship is hard.
Yeah.
He's like I wouldn't wish a whole lot of what I've been through on other people, and he's been an entrepreneur his whole life.
He made. Are you on TikTok at all?
No.
So you're familiar with it,
yeah,
though, right?
Yeah.
He really popular on there. Like he kills it on there.
Yeah.
He made one the other day where it was like what people think entrepreneur life was, and it's all these pictures like guys on beaches or whatever, and then he's like and then it was like the reality, and it's him on like some like crummy bus at like 3 a.m, like in the middle of like a flight, like his flight was delayed in some random state, and there's no one there with him, and he just looks sad and lonely.
Well, dude, and so that's what I'm talking about. So like whenever I get this, whenever I tell people like it's okay not to be the next Jeff Bezos or something, like people kind of give me flack for that. Like, why wouldn't I want to do that? And I'm like, well, I don't know if you've ever seen some of these guys, but like their lifestyle, like I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be on a plane every day. Like I like things, and not to say that you don't have to sacrifice things to be an entrepreneur, because you certainly have to sacrifice, you have to work, but some of the things it takes to do these things are not, I mean, to me, and they're not worth it to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
But listen, there's people next door to you who make millions of dollars and live the life that you want to live.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And then there's, there's these guys. But those are the people that I wanted to bring out in the show. That are like, they are successful business owners. They make a lot of money. They do whatever they want to do.
Right. They're on their own time.
They do whatever they want to do. If they want a weekend, they can have a weekend. If they want to work 8 days straight, they work 8 days straight. But they can do whatever they want to do. And they live right next to you. And they've done it. And they look like you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Jeff Bezos almost, or like Warren Buffett or these guys, like they almost don't seem real.
No.
Sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
It's almost too like, it's like a character.
Like Kevin Hart, Joe Rogan, these guys, like they're real. But it's almost sometimes like, you see how big they are status-wise, and you're like, dude, like if I saw them in real life, I wouldn't believe it.
No,
because they're so big. You know what I'm saying?
And to kind of go with your point where you said you don't want to be like a Jeff Bezos. Everyone I talk to about podcasts, like, oh, you want to be the next Joe Rogan? I'm like, absolutely not. No, never. Like, like I get it. Like people see the dollar signs, like the Spotify deal, how much money he's made from podcasting. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But like what he actually does.
It's tough, man. It's tough.
It's tough. To me, I don't feel like I would be any more fulfilled being at that level versus like 6 levels below.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's the beautiful thing about doing this business or podcasting is you can do, that's what I think people miss is like, I am in business and I want to help people because I just want to do whatever the heck I want, dude. Right. Because you know what? Like, and I don't know, like Joe Rogan or some of these guys, but I bet they're happy as heck, dude.
Oh, yeah.
And good for them. I wouldn't be happy like that. No. And so you just got to do you, man. And like really hone in on your skills and then just start making money off of your skills. Now, a lot of people don't realize too, like this is the other thing about Joe Rogan. Like, you know how long he's been podcasting. Oh, yeah. Dude, like 11 or 12 years. Yeah. Like,
it's a long time.
Dude, some people, do you want to podcast? You know what I mean? Like, I'm cool with that, right? Yeah. But that's the other thing is like, oh, I want to, like, Joe Rogan didn't, like, get a UFC commentator spot overnight. Like, no. He didn't apply. Like, those are jobs that you don't apply for. No. Right? You know what I'm saying? He didn't start podcasting yesterday. You know
how many times do you think he was at a stand-up and no one knew who Joe Rogan was?
For real. Out there grinding. And so he killed it, man, and good for him. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I want people to understand is like, good for you. Like if you're cool with your business doing X, Y, and Z, good for you. Absolutely. Kill it, man. Get your paper. Because that's what I think it's about. It's just like, just be cool with you. Like if you're cool with the guy looking back at you in the mirror, I got no problems.
And exactly. And and for me, I think a lot of it too is just fulfillment. Yeah. I think that's the number. Yeah. I think that should be the number one goal for a lot of people. Yeah. Is like, are you fulfilled? Yeah. If you're not fulfilled, get out there.
Yeah. Keep going. Yeah. Keep going. And then if you're not fulfilled, look at what you're already doing. Like some people think like, I got to go to college. And if you've listened to any of my shows, like I'm not a college basher. Number one, because I went to college. But I went to college because that was something for me. I was like, I want to do this for me. I didn't do very well in high school, and I had a score to settle going to college,
which is amazing to hear because you always hear a lot of people who go to college and it ends up being for the wrong reason, like family pressure, society pressure, and then they go get this degree or whatever that they're like, I guess this will be it, and then like 30, 40 comes around like age wise, and they're like, I don't like any of this.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Here's the biggest problem with degrees. And that's because when people get them, they think that that's it. Like, I got my bachelor's degree in accounting. I can only be an accountant. Or, so you got that side. And then you got the side who went to, like, got their bachelor's degree in accounting. And then they never did anything with it. Right. But my thing is like, if you go get a college degree, go get a college degree. But that's not always how you learn. No. Right? And just because you got one degree doesn't mean you can't get another one, or doesn't mean you can't keep learning on X, Y, or Z. Exactly. Because people feel like people get in that thing, well, I already have this, so I can't go get another one. Or like I can't, you know what I mean? Like I've got to just stick with this or whatever. And I'm not saying everybody does that. No. But I'm saying a lot of people can get stuck in this trap. So I'm not a college basher, but I will tell you that I know for sure that college isn't for everybody, and that's totally cool, dude. But you gotta learn something. Yes. Whether it's on YouTube.
There's so many options.
Or Udemy, or your best friend.
Something.
Or, I interviewed a person who, her name is Tiffany Barnes. It was one of these past episodes. She had a personal story, and I'd never heard this like from somebody that like I was talking to face to face who's real. But she had a story where she was waitressing. She was going to college and then waitressing to pay for college, and she had a really cool story. So go listen to that. But her story. But she's waitressing. She sees this guy come at a table every day, and she goes, she gives him his stuff, and she overhears him, and she's like, hey, one day she's like, hey, I want to come work for you. She's like, and I'll do whatever. I'll be your secretary. I'll work for free. And so she started working for free, learning with this guy, talking with this guy. 6 months later, he's like, hey, you want to get in on a deal? He was a commercial real estate agent. Oh, wow. And he's like, you want in on this deal? She's like, yes. He showed her how to do it. She closed her first deal, dropped out of college, multi-million-dollar real estate agent right now. But like, she
love it.
She that was her college. Yeah. Was 6 months working with this guy. Yeah. Incredible, and she's an incredible lady. She's got a real estate business. She got a coaching business. She has a nonprofit organization. She's a killer. Yeah,
she's a killer. Straight up killer. I love hearing stuff like that too, because like I I try and catch myself not being a college basher because it's hard not to nowadays because there's so many areas.
Dude,
you know, if you have something that you're for sure dead set on that you want to do with your life and you have to go to college for it. For sure do it.
There are some things I'm with you. You don't need college for. I don't think you need college to be a business. No. To own a business or run a business.
You don't need to go to college. You don't need to go to college to get a lot of money.
No, you don't.
You really don't.
No, you don't. I know so many people who, and here's this is what I hope changes, like with, like how the gaming industry changed, you know, like 10 years it was like taboo and now it's like, you know, you don't game.
You don't game? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know more gamers than non-gamers.
Yeah, exactly, dude. So I want the change for trade schools to be like that. You know what I mean? Like, dude,
I agree so much.
Don't go to college, man. If you don't want to go to, and here's the thing: a lot more business disciplines are becoming like certificates.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you can get a certificate in business.
Yeah.
Which is like, dude, go learn the basics because you don't want to look like an idiot walking into a business and not knowing anything. I get that, right? But a lot of those courses and those disciplines are going to certificates. But these trade guys, dude,
so
an electrician, a plumber, like construction, dude, go get it, man.
Those
guys make bank.
Yeah, one of my good friends.
Those guys make money.
I'm trying to get him on. His name's Thomas.
Yeah.
He went and became a welder, like right out of high school.
Cool.
Went and got a welding certificate. Went through like 3 or 4 different welding jobs, building his portfolio.
Yeah.
You know, now he owns a fabrication business.
Yeah.
And he's making the paper.
Yeah.
And he didn't go to college. He went and got a DATC certificate.
Good for him.
You know, and it's killing
hell yeah, dude. Good for him.
Like,
and that's what you got to do, dude.
Yeah.
Like you just have to learn something. Yeah. And you don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to a trade school. I grew up in a little town in Iowa where a lot of these guys didn't necessarily have welding certificates. They just like, you know, they were just like, hey, I'll be your welding apprentice.
Yeah.
I'll get you your stuff. Just show me how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and people do that, and good for them, dude.
I think another thing too is
I hope that changes. I hope we get to a place in society where it's like, I don't think it's taboo, you know. But I hope we get to a place in society where we can send high schoolers to just trade schools. Dude.
Yeah.
Just go.
They start out. So I graduated in 2012.
Yeah.
Through my 3 years in high school, they started doing that a little bit.
Right.
Like it was one of those things where like, you know, you get your stack of things that you can like sign up for or whatever. And one of them was always like, oh, go to DATC and you could do welding for 2 credits or whatever. And I was like, oh, I don't want to leave school.
Yeah.
I kick myself in the ass every day not doing it because like even if you go into one of these trades and it's not your passion, you're like, you know, this isn't for me. Having that in your pocket like on a rainy day,
it's good.
Knowing that you can go anywhere and step into a job and be proficient.
That's what this is about. The podcast, the things I tell people. My message is, you know, a lot of people will tell you that like, so what's your biggest wealth building tool? And a lot of people will say income, you know, big people. Dave Ramsey says income. Yeah. And I certainly don't disagree with that. I think the biggest wealth building tool that you can have are skills. Because like if you're in a job, because nobody's safe. When you're in a recession or depression or COVID, right? No one's safe. 9-to-5ers, government, entrepreneurs, no one, everybody's head gets chopped off when this stuff happens. Dude, when the government can't figure out a budget, government employees who told me that it was safe to work for the government, now they're laid off and they can't collect unemployment because if they collect unemployment, they got to pay it all back.
Yep.
And if they don't take any money, how long is this government shutdown going to last? 3 or 4 months? You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
You're 9 to 5. You just got furloughed. You just got laid off. Listen, if you have skills that can transfer anywhere, and if you got 3 or 4 of them, sales, welding, plumbing, accounting, I know how to run a business. If you have these skills, you chop my head off right now. Come fire me right now. I'll have a job before I leave the door.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That is wealth. That's security. Is knowing that I can walk into a job and if anything happens, if I don't like you, that's power, dude.
Yes.
That's confidence. And that's what I want somebody to give. You know, I had an experience one time when I had a buddy of mine. He was talking about starting his own business. And the company that he was working for was just trying to screw him. And I was like, dude, you walk in there, you give him the finger, and you say, like, go F yourself, because I don't need your money, I don't need your paycheck, I don't need your health insurance. Because as soon as I leave here, I'm going to have 8 clients that I can do whatever I want with, that I'll pay all my bills with. Dude, being able to have that kind of confidence and power is something that no one can take away from you. No 9 to 5, no government.
And it's just one of those things that I think people are always trying to find their happiness, right?
Yeah.
And there's a little segue, but like, when you know that you don't have to stress about either finances or, you know, my job, like the security, like you wake up every day and you're like, I can do it.
Yeah, no matter what happens today, I'll be fine.
That's gonna start bringing you happiness.
Dude, yes. And it should, dude. Because like then nobody can control. Then you don't feel like this kind of control that people have over you. And so I tell people that, dude. I'm like, your biggest wealth building tool is your skills, because you can lose income, but if you have skills, you can replace that. The ability to replace income quickly is bigger than anything else. You know what I'm saying? And so with this, I want people to know that a lot of these business owners that I interact with, almost every one of them, you know, didn't think that what they were gonna, their job they had now, they didn't think they were gonna have that 5 years before, and it was something that they'd already been doing. Right. You know, I already have an interest in this. I already like this. Like, I like talking to people, and you did the same. So podcasting was the next best thing to make money out of talking to people.
Yeah, makes
sense. And we have the internet, dude.
And the internet,
you can get paid for talking to people now if you're good at it.
Right, and there's so many avenues out there too. Like,
yeah, man.
I mean, to even go to small businesses is trying to advertise. Like,
yeah, man,
throw an advertise up.
Yeah, you know, it's sick. It's such a good thing for people to realize that if you have a skill, you can start making money. Yeah. Like Gary Vaynerchuk wrote that book, Crush It. Mm-hmm. And that's all he talked about. He was like, you can turn anything into money. And I think he's right, dude.
I think he's right too. I mean, to go back to what you said, if you want it enough, you can do it. Yeah. You really can. I mean, people listening, if that sounds silly to you or that sounds cliche, you have to open your eyes and realize that it's true.
Well, I read this book by Mark Manson, The Subtle Art.
Yeah, love that book.
And, you know, one of the questions he tells you to ask yourself is what are you willing to suffer for? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it's not, you know, how bad it is, how bad you want it. It is what are you willing to take. But then, like, are you willing to, like, grind this out? Because it's going to suck, dude.
Small plug. If you guys want to know what this book's about, my book club did an episode of it like 4 months ago. Yeah. Go find it. It's a wonderful book.
That book is awesome. It's fantastic. And you know what, man? I get so bad because, like I said, I'm pretty conservative. Yeah. You know, I served an LDS mission. I'm an active member in the church, and that doesn't mean that you know, like we're talking right now, it doesn't mean that I don't like anybody. But that book changed my whole life.
It's
and you wonderful. Would think, and like, you know, everybody in my circle was like, "Why are you reading that book?" And I bring it out. It's got the F word right on the top, and I'm like, "This book will change if you take out the F words." And I don't think he should. No, I don't think he should. I think you should leave him in there because there's no other word that would describe what he's trying to describe.
Exactly.
So I'm there. Leave it in there. But some people won't read it because of that word. And I'm like, dude, just get past it and listen to what this guy is saying because he's telling you the truth.
He has a lot to say.
Yes, he does. And it's a great book.
Yes.
It's a great book. And I recommend it to people. Yeah. Now, some of my friends won't read it. But dude, it's amazing. Yeah. It's an amazing book. And he wrote the second book, Everything is Effed. Yeah. The book on hope.
I haven't read that one yet. I heard it's almost better than the first one.
Dude, it is better than the first one.
Really?
I was like, those 2 books on my shelf. If anybody ever asks me for life, what's the best life book? I give them those 2 books. I'm like, you don't need to read any other book. This guy killed it. Mark Manson killed it.
He really shared a message that needed to be heard.
Yeah, that Subtle Art book was sick.
You know, as you grow up, like, you start realizing some things that you have to start doing. And one thing that I took away from that book is, like, you really have to look at who's around you.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
You know, and it's a tough thing to do. Yeah. Because, like, if you grew up with certain people or you grew up, like, around family or whatever, you don't want to cut people out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like if you're trying to grow, you really need to surround yourself with people who are like-minded and wanting to pursue the same whatever goal you have in mind, or follow in the same avenue that you might want to follow in, because it really does change your life. Like, who you really associate with is going to be a big part of that. And that's a large part of what I took away from that book, at least from my point of view.
And that's the beautiful thing about books, man. You can take a message out of it, and I can take a message out of it, and then we can read it again, and both of us get different answers. You know what I mean?
Different, yeah.
And I like that. It's my number one book recommendation.
Yeah,
like that.
It's fantastic.
It should be. But I liked it because it. So there's I don't think he mentions it in the book, but I grew up also in a philosophy of like very stoic. So he focused on like only giving an F about things that you can control. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, and things that will bring you, and I like that he talked about happiness as a lie. Because it's not about being happy all the time.
Right.
That's why we get addicted to things. Because we're trying to be happy all the time.
It's true.
He's like, and that's where, and I did a lot of research into other religions too. But that's where I also got, that's where these two ideas came together of like, suffering and pain is sacred.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you need to learn from this. You need to embrace the suck. And I was like, dude, that's great.
It makes,
because telling somebody to be happy all the time is stupid.
It's not realistic.
Well, it's not. Yeah, I get stupid might not be the right word, but
no. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It is kind of, it's almost giving someone a false hope in a way, because you're like, not every day is going to be.
Yeah, not every. You gotta see through it, man. Yeah, what are you willing to suffer for?
Yeah, exactly. Those days like where, for example, like. There's a day where if you're into fitness and you're just like, man, I don't feel like losing weight today. McDonald's looks cool, and then you drive and you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Am I willing, like, I need to go to the gym.
Yeah.
I need to go and do this because it will make me a better person. Like, it's so easy to fall into that, like, that trend of making the decisions that aren't going to make you happy, and then now you're going to continue to fall down this path.
And so when people say, like we've said it before, like when people say like the goal should be happiness, the goal should be to make happiness the journey, not a destination, right? Because happiness like isn't like a goal. It's not an end destination.
Right.
Like, you can be happy and have crappy days.
Yes.
I can still be happy and have crappy days. And just because I'm having a crappy day, like that's the other thing. People take on a lot of this stuff. Like if I'm having a crappy day, something must be wrong with me. I must have done something wrong. Somebody must have wronged me.
Right.
Like we like pushing off accountability. And that book is all about accountability.
Yes.
Like you own it. It's yours. You can be happy during crappy. You can be sad during really good times. You know what I mean? Like you just need to own your own emotions, own the responsibility of that, and then go.
And I think too, one thing that helps a lot of people, and this could be, whether or not you need to change up what you're doing with your life, but you really got to fall in love with your grind.
Yeah, you do.
If you are miserable at your 9 to 5, or you're miserable at your construction job, or like whatever path you're on, you're just every day you're waking up and you can't find that happiness, it might be time to find a new grind.
Yeah. And like this deep, it's kind of hard to explain, like the deep unhappiness.
Right.
Because like we were talking about, like, dude, entrepreneurship sucks. Like my podcast, didn't start off great. Like I didn't know so much about podcasting. Like I didn't know you're supposed to have a launch day. Right. I didn't know you're supposed to like get a bunch of people to give you reviews and stuff. Like I think I have like 5 or something. Right. But I know people like it. But like it's gonna be hard. But like it's almost like you just have to keep going.
Yeah.
Like, are you willing to keep going? Like, because if you're not willing, if this doesn't fit in your 5-year plan, then you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, right?
You know what I mean? If it doesn't get you to the next step in your 5-year plan, if it's not a part of it, then yeah, man, maybe you should look at maybe you should reconsider.
Yeah, I mean it's so easy to fall into like this uncomfortability.
Yeah, dude,
you know, I'm a firm believer that getting comfortable is the killer of a lot of things, including that potential happiness journey. And it's when you get comfortable, you don't learn, you don't take risks, you don't grow.
Yeah.
And unless you're really, really happy with who you are at that moment in time, I just getting comfortable is not going to be beneficial. And,
right.
Because I meet a lot of people who are, I'm 26 right now. I mean, I like to hang out with people who are older than me.
Yeah.
And, I meet people in their 30s and 40s and 50s, and they're just not happy.
Yeah, man.
They've been doing the same grind for 30 years.
Yeah.
They stopped going to school, or they stopped researching, and they stopped learning things because they were just man. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. Like,
and long past are the days of going to the same job for 30 years and getting the gold watch, dude. Yeah. Like, that's not going to happen, bro. And I don't think it should. No. I think you should try as many things as you want, keep going. Because if you go up to an owner and you tell them that, they're gonna have good owners and good leaders are gonna have respect for that.
Yeah.
Hey, you just moved, man.
I think too. We kind of talked about things that we should start swaying.
Yeah.
I'll try and answer your question here in a second because I don't know, but
right.
I think that one thing that I'd like to see change is when you're going in for a job interview, right? Yeah. And let's say your resume is thick because you've gone through multiple different jobs.
Yeah.
Why is that still a negative thing?
Dude, I personally, and I've said this before. In fact, I talked about it when I had the Utah Women in Sales Organization on my podcast. I don't think resumes are going away, man. It doesn't, when I was hiring salespeople, and sales specifically, resumes aren't a thing.
Right.
I didn't care what you had on your resume. I wanted to see if you could talk to people, if you could be authentic, right. If you could listen to somebody. You know what I mean? Those skills, and you can see that in one or two interviews.
Sure.
I can tell you can tell if somebody knows how to listen, if they're authentic, if they're being genuine, for the most part.
Right. Somebody
might sneak through every once in a while, but
sure.
I can lie on a resume. And I never looked at that. Multiple jobs, I might ask a couple questions because sometimes it can be an indicator of multiple things. It depends on the time frame, right?
Right.
If you can stay at a job for 1 or 2 years, then I know you're just you
exploring.
Man. Yeah, you're just exploring, and I'm looking at those things, right? Now, if I see 1 or 2 jobs in the same month, I might be like, What's up, homie?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? What are you doing?
So it just depends. So my answer for that is very accountant.
Right.
It just depends. But one thing I'm for sure, resumes are going away too.
I'm glad to hear that from you because it's one of those things I've always been curious about because I have a lot of friends who bounce around. I've bounced around to several different jobs, and it has always been a weird here's my resume, and they're like, well, why did you have this job, this job, this job, this job? And
I'm just
trying to find what makes me happy.
Man, I'm just trying to and I think employers. So if you're listening to this and you're an employer, I think they put too much stock in a resume, dude.
Yeah.
I don't care, bro. I don't care about your GPA.
Come talk to me.
And it depends. Now it depends on what job you're applying for. But in general, if I'm in a customer service gig, which is most of the time, which is a lot where you see these kind of things. Mm-hmm. And by the way, here's why I think the biggest reason why resumes are dying is because have you ever had a job that you really loved?
Yeah.
How did you find the job normally?
Word of mouth. That's
right.
Yeah.
Dude, referrals.
Yeah.
That's why resumes are dying. Because it's not what you know, it's who you know. Dude, the best jobs, listen, if you, and think about it, man, the jobs, that are cool aren't on Indeed.
Right.
They're not. I want podcasting managers, those are cool jobs, not on Indeed. You're never going to find that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You want to really, and listen, and the higher paying the job, the less it's going to be posted.
Yeah.
You don't want, think about, you want to be a a financial planner or something like that, for the most part, they don't put those on Indeed.
No.
They don't put 7-figure gigs, 6-figure gigs most of the time. And if I see a 6-figure gig on Indeed, I'm very leery of that.
Yeah, it seems fishy.
You know what I mean? Like, do I really want 70 people applying to this gig?
Well,
and I don't know who they are.
And on top of that, like, it's so rare to see that you almost kind of wonder if it's legitimate in a way, because like, yeah, I don't know, you just don't see.
Yeah, man. That's why I think, because listen, you could bring me a resume and I look at your resume and I'd be like, maybe not. But then your friend who I know goes, I vouch for this guy. I'm gonna hire you because of that, not because I'm gonna throw your resume out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think employers, they ask for references, but employers rarely call them references. You know what I'm saying? And I think it should be reversed. I think you should give me references first, and if I like who I talk to, you know what I mean? Yeah. And if I like who I talk to, then I'll bring you in. I'd be like, hey, these 4 guys, I like what they said about you. Now I want to meet you.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Just because.
Yeah.
Jeez. Just because you want to, like, I don't know. I agree with you 110%. That's why I want to talk about it a little bit, because like, it just seems so old.
Yeah, it is old.
It's an old way of thinking. Like, yeah, I have 30 years.
And if you want a job that, and here's why most people, and I don't know the statistics on it, but like, here's why most people get jobs by word of mouth. It's because like, you're like, wow, I really want that job. Mm-hmm. I'm going to find other people in that job. I'm going to talk to those people. I'm going to network with those people, right? And then I'm going to ask them what they did to get this job. And then we're going to be cool. We're going to be friends. And then they're going to say, hey, I know a position over here that you need to go check out. I know the guy, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to hook you up, right? That's how I've gotten most of my jobs. I never gave them a resume. People just knew. And then we talked. And then my interviews were like, you know, hey, sell me this, or hey, how would you sell this, or you got a problem here, tell me this, like real situations,
right?
You know what I mean? Shoot, if I could, you have to have a sales license in Utah for a lot of things if you want to be a salesman. So you can't, and they're pretty strict about it. So you can't, like, I couldn't bring people out on the floor and be like, hey, go talk to this guy in my service department. But I would if I could, dude, because that would be the ultimate interview for me.
Oh yeah,
go do it.
Go do it.
You know, interviews last 30 minutes. I think that's too short. I think if I was going to do an interview and I could do whatever I wanted, I'd be like, go talk to that guy. I'd be like, go talk to him too. Yeah, I want to see how you talk with people. You know what I mean?
Especially in the sales industry, because like, you gotta see how people are going to interact.
Dude, I never looked at a resume. One time.
It makes so much sense.
I didn't
like,
do it.
What's the point?
Yeah, I hired sales guys, trained sales guys. Never once. I mean, if they put it in front of me, I'd be like, okay. But then I wouldn't even ask them normally. Yeah. I'd be like, nice resume.
It looks cool.
Because, you know, I'd have salespeople come, and they'd put all these sales jobs on there. I'd be like, I don't really care, because I know good salespeople. Yeah. I know bad salespeople. Like, do I want you on my team? That's what I'm thinking, right? I think it's nuts, dude. Yeah. I think it's nuts that you have resumes. Yeah, 100%. I think they're going away.
I'm glad that we agree, because I've been thinking that a lot lately with resumes. I'm just like, it's such a weird. It's.
And the best way to find a job is to find the people in that job that you want to be in, and then go after it.
Just talk to them.
Yeah, and it's really easy. And that's also, but that's another skill that you can learn, dude. Because it's hard to talk to people, right? Like, what do you say and how do you do this? And there's lots of books on that. Or you can come find me. I'll tell you what to say. You know what I'm saying?
I like it.
But like, go find the people that you want to network with. You want to be a social media marketer? Cool, dude. First of all, go watch all the YouTube videos you can find on it. Go find somebody, and then go market. You know, I think if resumes continue, and that's a big if, but if they continue, a resume to me would be like, if you're going in for social media marketing or something, and most of the time they ask for it, but like a portfolio.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like for welding, you know, here's pictures, here's my portfolio. Yeah. This is all I've done. Plumbing, these are jobs that I've worked on.
Yeah, you can tell me you have 20 years of experience, but like, what can you do?
Yeah. Oh, you worked on that building. I know that building. Yeah. I know this stuff, right?
Same with sales. Like, you did all these things. Well.
Yeah. And you can almost have a portfolio in anything.
Yeah.
If you do it right.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
You know,
especially in the social media market. Yeah. Like, how many videos do you got that are doing well?
Yeah,
there's so many different facets.
And if you, I like this question. Hold on. What about people who have no contacts. Okay, what about people who have no contacts? Go find them. You LinkedIn, Facebook, social media. We have so many avenues that you can find people to contact. Like, and then you just cold call them, dude.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I noticed you, like, if I wanted to be I don't know. I do a lot of things that I like right now. I want to drop ship. Yeah. I want to learn drop shipping. I'm going to go find the best drop shipper. And I'm going to be like, hey, homie, I saw you were really good at drop shipping. You got a really successful business. You got 5 minutes to answer a question for me? Promise I won't take too long because I want to start my own business.
And the thing that people might be scared to do that, most of these guys just are willing to talk to you because they're pumped. Like they're doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
So of course they're going to be like, oh yeah.
Yeah. What about people with no internet? Go knock doors.
Yeah, go knock doors.
Listen, if you want it bad enough, you'll get it.
Yeah.
If you want it bad enough, you'll get it.
Yeah. Back to what we said. If you really want it.
I love it. Well, because listen, I was talking to a friend about this earlier, and this just brought this up. And whoever this is, I'm not picking on you. But a lot of people make excuses.
Yes.
And I'm not saying these are excuses.
No.
But here's why excuses are the worst. Excuses are the worst because they're true.
Yeah.
They're true.
Dude,
excuses are, they're so, like, man, I can't do this. I don't have the internet. Man, I can't do this because of whatever. Right?
Right.
And I like that. I like the comments.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. But it's all true.
Yeah.
That's why excuses are the worst thing you can do to yourself. But you got to get past them, bro. You got to just be like, yep, it's true, man. But people did it before internet. People did it before resumes. Back in the day, dude, the only way you got a job was if you knew somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why these big Ivy League schools, Harvard, Stanford, that's why they cost the most to get in. Not because of their education, because of who you know.
Oh yeah, you
it's
build
their
the
alumni.
biggest contacts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's their alumni. If you said I graduated from Harvard, the next thing would not be, what did you graduate in? The next question would be, oh, you graduated from Harvard. You remember that spot? You remember this spot? You know this person? That's the interview. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Who do you know?
Who do you know?
Who do you know?
Cool. Yeah.
I know him.
Oh, great, dude. Yeah. and so that's what I'm saying. And so I just brought that up because people have all these excuses. I've got excuses. They're valid. Yeah, dude,
sure.
And they're real.
One of my favorite things is the old adage. It's like excuses are like butts. Everyone has them when they stink.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's silly and funny, but like
and it's true.
It's true.
And it's because people, when you have an excuse, the best excuses that you hear are the ones that are like the most true.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have the contacts. I didn't go to Harvard. I haven't been in the game that long. It's all true, dude.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
No.
You are responsible for what happens.
It really doesn't. And like, back to what we said.
Yeah.
If you want it.
Yeah. Listen, my life changed. I'll tell you when my life changed, like dramatically. And my life changed dramatically when I realized that nobody cares.
Yes. It's,
you know what I mean?
Not a single person.
And not because they don't have empathy, or not because they wouldn't if they heard your story, but it's because they can't. You got your bag of crap, I have my bag of crap, and my bag of crap isn't any better or worse than yours, but like I have to focus on me and you got to focus on you.
Absolutely.
And that's why nobody cares. We all got bags of crap that we're loading around. You know what I mean?
And I'm glad that in 2020 we're starting to finally see people who are just more like, if I hear excuses nowadays from people, whether it be, business or like whatever dumb thing is going on, I'm just like,
Well, like gaming, dude. Like, I'm not a big gamer, but I know it happens, right? Like, I'm not good. I don't have enough viewers.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what games to play. Like, those, dude, all true. What do you have to do? Start doing something.
Yeah.
You just got to start doing something.
It kills my soul, too, like, when I hear people like, hey, what do I got to do to start streaming? I'm like, you want to start streaming? Let's do it. Like, get this, and this. You could be streaming in the next hour tonight.
And it doesn't cost a lot of money.
Oh, no. You could $150 mic, decent PC. I mean, you don't even have to get a $150 mic. $20 mic. Start putting out the content.
Yeah.
Like start rolling. Like
quality over quantity. Man.
Yeah, it's
for sure,
it's you just have to do it. Like it sounds so dumb to say, but you have a dream,
and so you just start going.
Yeah, right? Just start going, roll it. Like you never know.
You
could wake up the next day and your first stream could be the biggest thing you ever do.
For sure.
Could happen.
For sure.
So I have a couple questions, and we're about an hour and 5 minutes in.
Cool.
You want to go 2?
Yeah, let's go.
An hour and a half.
So
starting podcasting, you're fairly fresh in the world.
Yeah.
You're doing great. Podcast is amazing.
Yeah.
Have you had that moment yet where you start noticing your perspectives change because of how many people you talk to now? Meaning, like, you get so many different opinions on that it's hard to, like, not hard, but it's so interesting to start reflecting on all those opinions.
Yeah. I well, and that's the other thing is, like, I'm not married to anything I say.
Yeah.
Because I'm always growing. I think I was talking about this earlier, but people who bring up, like, authenticity. Authenticity doesn't mean that you never change, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can be authentic and change my mind tomorrow. And I think that's more authentic than not, right? Like, oh, yesterday I said yesterday I didn't believe in whatever.
Yeah.
And today I do because I've read some stuff, I talked to some people, and you know what? I need to change.
Yeah.
And so for me, talking to people, hearing new ideas, hearing new stories, if anything, it's made me more empathetic and more authentic, because now I can be like, yeah, you know what? I used to think the opposite, but now I don't because I think I need to change. And so that's why I think a lot of people get wrong about authenticity. They think, like, being real means, like, you can't, you have to stay the same. Like, you gotta, you know what I mean?
I agree with you 200%, because to me, when I meet someone, it scares me. Like, it scares me when people don't ever change their thought process.
Yeah.
And that could be a wide range of topics, but it's just, to me, like, if I was someone who's interviewing a person and they have all the same things, they've had these same things for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
To me, that kind of seems like they're not growing.
Yeah.
Do I want someone who's not growing working for me? Or do I want someone in my inner circle who's not growing? Like,
right. Well, that book they wrote about Abraham Lincoln, Team of Rivals, they talk about that. You know, Abraham Lincoln surrounded himself with people who didn't agree with him because he had to figure, you know what I mean? He didn't want people telling him what he wanted to hear. He wanted people telling him what was actually happening.
Right.
And that's what you want in your circle. And so when people tell me things that I might not agree with up front, first of all, I'm very empathetic because we don't have to agree on things.
Yes.
And we don't have to agree on things to be nice to people.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, we can just live. Like, for me, I really don't care what people do. Like, if you do you and I'll do me, and we can be friends, and that's it. Right. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, dude.
The same with me. Like, I never understood why, if a person has their own beliefs, whether it be political, religion, you know, how they want to live their life, the hobbies they have, the things that they might ingest or do or take or whatever it might be, like, if I don't do that, it doesn't mean that I have to hate this person.
Right.
And we see that it's so relevant right now. Like, I don't ever talk politics because I'm not into it. Like, because people get toxic, like, you know.
Yeah, they do.
Like, we're
really
talking
get
about
toxic,
it,
dude.
But it sucks.
Dangerous.
It sucks that we're in a mindset now where, like, if I disagree with someone, I'm supposed to hate them.
Yeah.
If I did, like, the people I disagree with, those are who I want to talk to the most, because
man,
you have a perspective that's vastly different from me. So why?
Like,
What brought you? Yeah, you know.
It out. And that's the thing. And when you sit down and you talk with people, even like on a podcast, but you sit down and you talk with people and you realize that we're really not that different. Man.
No.
It doesn't really. And dude, it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm very stoic in this one thing. It's probably my most, stoic attribute about me. And that's if you or I passed away tomorrow, like, this was our last conversation, you and me, for either one of us, like, how would that change my conversation? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if this was my last time I could have a conversation with somebody, would I want it to be filled with, like, political hate or religious hate? Like, no, dude, because it doesn't matter. Because tomorrow is my last day.
I think that's, not to sound weird or anything, but that's beautifully put. Like, that's,
and death.
So true.
Death scares a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
It's a heavy topic, but it doesn't have to be. I hold my death in front of me all the time. I have an expiration date.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that is.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I heard a wise man once say nothing at all. And if I ever disagreed with somebody, like, you know, because we get into these things, like, I have to spread truth, I have to spread facts or whatever. Right. And I'm like, dude, sometimes it doesn't matter, bro.
Right.
It doesn't matter, dude. Because, like, empathy and love go further than all of this.
Yeah.
And you know what's so funny? You know, just, I'm not going to get into politics, but just the idea of politics, like, most of us have the same thoughts. And we wouldn't say what we said on Facebook, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
To each other, for the most part. There's some people that will.
Oh, sure.
And I think that it's growing, and that's why social media is getting a little dangerous, is because more and more people are saying what they are saying on Facebook. But for the most part, we don't. Like, for the most part, you and I would guess that you and I would agree on almost everything.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
And the things we didn't, and the things that we disagreed on, if anything, would be minor.
Well,
like,
yeah.
The big things we would be like, yeah, for sure.
And that's the thing is, like, it kind, in a way, it kind of breaks my heart that I see so many people that just, like, just immediate, like, because we're growing in the society with Facebook and Instagram where everything's instant, right?
Right.
So we read one thing and we're like, hate that guy, hate that girl. You know, it's like immediate. Like, everything we have to start. Everything has to be immediate for some reason.
Yeah.
But if there's someone who really bothers you, 30-minute conversation.
Sure.
Just talk to them. Just be like, hey, this bothers me. Tell me why.
Right.
Change your
just
life.
Talk to people, man. And so so back to your, like, original question, like, how do I? And I've had people on the podcast who don't agree with me at all, and that's fine.
Yeah,
we still have a good conversation, because it's more about like, just talking with people, man. I think that's a beautiful thing. Is, like, we're just, like, talking to people too.
Well, and it's funny because, like, I've had a vast majority of people come on here from, like, you know, people running amazing businesses, very successful, to people who are, their passion is ghost hunting. You know, and right. It's funny because, like, a lot of people come in and they see the environment a little grungy, have some weird posters up, you know, it makes some people uncomfortable, but, like, 20-30 minutes in, you start having a conversation and all the things start disappearing, because the reality is, like, when you sit down and you actually care to listen to a person across from you, it creates that connection. It's different from just like, hey man, what are you doing today? Hey man, what are you doing today? Like, you know, it's more, I don't know. I'm almost 3 years into podcasting now.
Sweet.
And the biggest takeaway for me is, like, you could be a person that I would probably never see in my day-to-day life. A 2-hour conversation,
it'd be
amazing.
Sweet. Yeah,
you know.
Sweet. Well, and when people, so we also get kind of offended because we take things personally. Yeah. Like, if you're disagreeing with me, like, that's a personal, malicious, like, attack on me. And I don't view anything like that when we have conversations. Like, I care about one thing in a conversation, and that's truth. Yeah. And so if somebody says to me, like, you know, I always use this example because it's funny, but if someone's like, you're fat, right? I go, well, that's true. Yeah. Right? And then that's it, right? Or if they say, you know, your mom's ugly, I go, well, that's not true. Or it might be true for you. Yeah. And I go like this. I go, oh, okay. Because, listen, if I care about truth, then there's only one of two ways that goes. If I care about truth, then it's either not true, and I don't have to worry about it, or it is true, you know, or it is true. Yeah. And I either already know it and I'm working on it, or I can be like, oh, that's true. Probably needs something I need to work on. Right. Or, you know, I felt that's true, and I probably need to change my views on that. Yeah. And I'm not scared of either one, because if it's true, it can't hurt you. Yeah. Fair enough. You know what I'm saying?
I agree 100%.
And that's what people don't get. How could something that's true hurt you? Yeah. It can't. It can only make you better. It can't hurt you.
Well, and to kind of go back to what we talked about with like friends who tell you how it needs to be, you know, the Abraham Lincoln surround yourself. Like, you know, if people are straight up and honest with you and you take it as malicious, they might just be a friend who's really trying to tell you something. Yeah. You know, I had a conversation with a really good friend of mine a couple of years ago. Well, it was about a year ago. And he's like, "You're getting more fat." And immediately I was like, "What? Like, how dare you?" Douche. And then like I sat there and I'm like, well, he's telling me this because he cares. Yeah. He's telling me this because he's not trying to make a joke. It's true. Right. I need to do something about it. And when
you realized it was true, it didn't hurt you.
Yeah. It felt great. I was like, I needed to hear.
Yeah, you know what? Okay, cool. And that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So when people say something that's not true to me, I'm like, brush it off. Right? And there's a lot of self-awareness that comes with that. As I'm sure you notice. At first it stings. Like if something is true and you don't want it to be true, like it doesn't matter. Yeah. Because it's still true. Yeah. And so then you're like, okay, you know what? Yeah, man. Because we've all had that. And there's nothing wrong with it. No. Like the truth can't hurt you. So that's what I think, right?
I think that's brilliant because it is true. Yeah. Some question too. Yeah. Cool if there is. We're all right. Yeah, about right.
That's good.
Now, with what's kind of your vision for? Because I know that you want to have local businesses on. You want to have the small businesses on, which I think is fantastic. Where do you see the Thinking Project in like the next 5 years? Having like regular, consistent guests, or are you trying to take it to like a different type of outlet?
I think the biggest thing for me is I want to get it to the most people that I can. So as far as guests, not necessarily different guests, because I like the small local stuff. I even like the big, I've interviewed people who have big chains, but they started from something small. And if you passed a business owner, like if you passed any of the people I've interviewed on my show, you wouldn't know. And that's what I like. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't know any different, and they're so down to earth. Because I've interviewed guys who have restaurants in 4 or 5 states. They are millionaires, but you would never know that. And that's what's cool. You know what I mean? I've interviewed small people, small businesses, really small businesses, big, medium-sized businesses. Yeah. But I think getting that out to the public, showing people these stories, like that's my purpose. So just getting it out to as many people as I can, really growing my audience and not necessarily switching the people that I have on.
I like that.
What I'm saying.
I think that's great too, because we talked about it a little bit at the start, but like giving the voice to those who like we don't see.
Yeah, and dude, nobody gives them, like if you're really big and you know the right people, you might get on the news, right? But even then, some people don't end up on the news, right? And if you do end up on the news, you're on there. And I almost feel like it's just because you paid enough money to the right people. So that's how you get on the news.
Of course.
If you guys want to get on the news,
just pay some money.
Just pay some money. So nobody's interviewing these guys. Nobody's giving them a spotlight, and that's what I wanted to do. Spotlights, interviews. Like how cool! Like I've never had someone say no for the most part. Like I want to interview you on a podcast, and we're gonna have an hour conversation, and I want your whole story. That's cool, man.
It is. It's exciting. Like I think I've had one no. Yeah. And it was because like scheduling, they're like, I don't know. I don't think I can come.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool.
I had one I had 2 no's. The one no was when I messed up. I went away from my original thing. I tried to ask somebody who was too big. You know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, but I really don't want that person on here anyway. Yeah. And then I asked another person, and they were sick. Yeah. Yeah. But most of the time, dude, most of the time my schedule's full, dude. My months are full.
And the awesome part about getting people on who are small business owners who are either in that growth cycle or even starting out, or they're successful, is like they have a story, they want to tell it, and they're passionate, and it's just
man. And so given those small business owners like on my LinkedIn, it's small business champion.
I like
dude,
that.
come, I'm gonna interview you. We're gonna take a picture. I'm gonna throw you up on my website, on my Instagram and stuff, and you're just gonna be like the star of the show, dude. It's sick, man. It's unbelievable when you start to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
right?
And it's cool too, like because in a weird way, and this is almost like a what's the word I want to use, like selfish in a way. Yeah. I love when people come on and they're just so excited. It makes me feel good because I'm like,
dude, yes, like you got something that's real, dude.
Yeah,
you got something that works, man. I love it, dude.
So what do you think, like, as far as being a podcaster has been like the most, I guess, I don't want to say discouraging, but the thing that you thought was like, I wish this was different. Has there been anything for you?
That I wish was different with podcasting. I don't think so.
Or anything you dislike?
Yeah, I think that, like setting up, I run the podcast out of my home. And so setting up is kind of tough. But I think one of the hardest things for me is like, but it's anything in life, is the growing pains. You know, learning, like going back and being like, I had a really cool guest and I kind of messed up. Like I didn't ask the questions that I wanted to. I forgot a little bit. Something messed up, you know. But those are just like growing pains. Absolutely. You know what I mean? But as far as any like dislikes, dude, like I really don't.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Sweet, man. Like making money to talk to people. That's what I do. I talk to people.
I talk to people. I love it. I mean, I've had a lot of people ask me like, "Hey, you're 3 years in, are you gonna quit soon? Or are you gonna do this?" I'm like, I don't see myself ever not doing it.
Yeah, for real.
Because there's just something about, like, for me, it's like it's social, socializing. Yeah. You know, it's getting, you know, I don't know about you, but like anytime I have a new guest on, I get the butterflies. Like, you know,
dude,
like,
yeah, you do, man. Like, you're like, whoa, dude.
I'm like, I got a show in an hour. I'm like, oh, let's go. Like, I'm nervous in a way.
And I think I learn more from podcasting than anybody else. Like, I learn more from my guests, and I do it more for me than anybody else. Because, when I say that, I mean like from my I feel like I learn so much. You know what I mean? I learn so much, and I get so much from this. While everything's going on, I'm like, dude, I'm like the luckiest person alive that I get to talk to these people.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I agree 100%.
Dude, it's my favorite.
It's so... I mean, I know that yours is more, you know, catered to the small businesses.
Sure.
I imagine there's been some characters.
Dude, there has been, and there's been some people who I would have never, like, you see them online and stuff, and I've like I've had some people I'm like, wow, dude, I would have never guessed.
Same.
Never guessed that this guy's a millionaire.
Yeah.
But he lives a life like you wouldn't believe, dude. Or like, you know, I never think that this guy would have 3 businesses and they're all like different or something. And sometimes it's really easy to carry on a conversation and sometimes it's not. But here's the thing, like, you're always so surprised at how well people look on the outside. And I'll give you an example. Like, I learned not to judge people on the way they looked in wrestling. I was a wrestler for a really long time. Did jiu-jitsu I still do jiu-jitsu.
Oh, awesome.
But I learned not to judge people on the way they look, and I'll bring the story around. But I learned how to judge people, not judge people on how they look, because, dude, there was one time we were wrestling another team that we had never met, and we were going against each other, and our number 1 guy was going up against. We didn't know who he was. And our guy was like real stocky. I mean, he looked tough. He looked beefy. I mean, he was good looking, and he was tough, and he was number 1, or number 2, and and this guy he was facing later we found out was like number 1 or number 2. And anyway, it was basically a state championship. But his opponent was this lanky dude. I mean, he did not look.
He didn't look like a wrestler.
He didn't look like a wrestler, and he was wrestling, and he didn't look like. If he was a wrestler, he didn't look like he was going to be anything like. Dude, we looked at this guy. This guy's going to be a piece of cake. It was a dogfight, and we had other guys who were like, you know, you'd be in the state championship, and you'd be in the heavyweights, and you got this guy who's just stacked like a brick house, and then you got kind of like this blob-looking guy. This blob-looking guy beats the piss out of this Dwayne Johnson looking guy. So you know what I mean? So I learned really quick when I was young not to judge people on how they look, because you never know who's going to kick your ass.
Right. It's true. I mean, I've done a little martial arts myself, and like I was rolling with a woman once in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And I always tell this story, and it's super embarrassing, but like, you know, I don't ever consider myself strong or a badass. I'm not. Like, she was maybe 150, 145.
Yeah.
And she looked me in the eyes and she was like, "Don't go easy on me." And I'm like, "For sure not." Like, okay.
Yeah.
I went easy on her and I thought she was going to choke me to death.
Yeah.
Everything I did, she just submitted me. And I was like, "This is wild. Like, what am I supposed to do?" And like, it was a moment in my life where I was like up here and I'm like, humble.
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't want your kids to get bullied or be bullies, you put them in martial arts. You get them in wrestling or jiu-jitsu because it's very humbling.
Yeah.
Because you learn. And so in business, how do I translate that into business? You never know, and life, you never know what someone's story is going to be.
Yes.
You never know what somebody's been through. You never know what they are. You can meet a millionaire who's the loneliest dude in the world.
Oh yeah.
You can meet a guy who makes 6 figures, or 5, and they're the happiest dudes in the world. And then you meet these people who are happy as heck, who have the craziest stories, man. Just like they come from abusive relationships, they come from wealthy families who didn't give them anything. No. You know what I'm saying? Who left them nothing, and they had to figure out it on their own. You know what I mean? And so you just got these crazy stories, and so I never judge somebody. Like, I've interviewed the owner of a candy shop, an older woman and I was like, and I was, a little hesitant before I interviewed it. I was like, this might be a little boring. Coolest interview I've ever done. So I don't judge people.
Yeah, you never know.
Or on what business they are, dude.
Yeah.
Because they could have some gnarly businesses. So it's way fun, dude.
And I have an interesting one I'm working on.
Yeah.
I won't say any names because I don't want to like get any hopes up or anything like that.
Sure.
But he sells mushroom figurines.
That's cool, man.
Like, and not like psychedelic Joe Rogan
sure,
that, but like toy mushrooms that he handcrafts.
That's cool.
And dude. I don't know how much he makes, but it's good money. Yeah. He's making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he seems so fun to talk to.
Man.
Just the off the cuff. And
yeah.
I want to know why why mushrooms? Why figurines? Why carving?
Yeah.
Why is this now a very successful position?
Dude, and that's what I love about interviewing small business owners. Is because you can make money doing whatever, dude. Yeah, it's nuts. You
never know.
Man. It's crazy.
I am curious with have you had to come through any controversy yet with podcasting? As far as either people really disagreeing with something or people getting on your case about something, because we see that a lot in 2020, right? Where we'll use Joe Rogan's example with the athletes being in certain divisions and stuff, and how that created a huge controversy.
Yeah.
Where the reality is it was a conversation.
Yeah.
Now it's controversy. Have you has anything like that happened to you? I hope not. I'm just curious.
No, I haven't really gotten in anything like that with somebody. Probably because I haven't been doing it that long. And probably because I'm very agreeable. Like, I'll see things from your point of view so that we don't have to we don't have to dance like that. The reason Joe Rogan got on that, and he said it on that show, was he's like, this is a hill I'm willing to die on. He was very, and I'm not that passionate about I don't have really that many hardcore views that are that hardcore. I have a few, but even then, like I said earlier, I once heard a wise man say nothing at all.
Yeah.
Now Joe Rogan has to say those things because he has the platform, and he has a big enough platform that he can make a difference if somebody's listening to him with an open mind. But for me, it's
Well, maybe let me cater the question a little bit different.
Sure.
I know that you said something along the lines you've had people on who disagree with your business point of views.
Sure. Yeah.
Has that ever bled into viewers at all, being no, that's not right, or yeah, that's
you know what, sometimes, but I'll be honest with you, until tonight, I really don't read the comments.
Smart.
You know what I'm saying?
Smart.
And I got that from Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And the main reason I don't is because I don't argue with people. And I'll tell you why I don't argue with people is because for the most part, arguing doesn't lead to any kind of change for the most part. And then like I'm not gonna give you information that I think is valuable if we're just gonna fight. Like I'll just tell you I don't know it. You know what I'm saying? Like what do you think? And if I feel like an argument coming on, I was like, I don't know. Yeah. and it's because like I'm not a fighting kind of guy.
Right.
I don't argue, and maybe that, and I know that like that's sometimes can be a character flaw for me, but I don't. I'll just be like, 2 + 2 is 5, and if you think you're right, bro, you're right. Bro.
Yeah, you're right for sure.
Sounds good.
Send it dude. For sure.
Yeah. Because I just don't like if we were 2 people and we were struggling for the truth, and we both knew that we didn't completely have the truth, but we had one goal, then sure, then I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you right up front, I don't know everything. And if you feel the same way, and we can reasonably talk, and we don't have to get mad, then let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of what Joe Rogan's people are. You know what I mean? They like Joe Rogan knows he doesn't have the truth, the whole truth. Mm-hmm. His guest knows that they don't have the whole truth, and so they're gonna
try and figure something out.
Figure it out. Get closer. And if we can do that, then I'm down. But if we're just gonna fight, then I'm not.
I think it's smart because like you can get lost in your own comment sections really easy, and
dude, for sure.
There's a lot like we talked about with saying stuff on Facebook comments they wouldn't say to your face, like
you wouldn't. And how do I know that's even your real name?
Yeah,
dude? Like
doing the live stream thing, like we obviously get a lot of awesome viewers who want to interact, but like I mean, I'll be straight up with you. There's some stuff that I've been told that I wouldn't ever repeat in my life. There's things that I've said, and
and again, it's about the truth.
Yeah.
And if it's not true, then
doesn't matter.
Then I'm out. Yeah, then I don't need to worry about it. So shoot, but no. As far as like getting really controversial, no, because most of the things that I say on my podcast or like on this live stream or something, I've said before.
Yeah, I guess maybe controversial wasn't the right word. I meant more.
Sure. No, I got you.
Yeah, more along the lines like, is there? I guess this is a question we can talk about. Is there stuff in business, at least from what you've learned and you've experienced, where it's like very, if you hold this opinion, a lot of people might disagree with you?
Sure.
Like, is there anything that you could think of off the top of your head that might be like a, not that you personally do, but it's like a hot topic? Maybe?
Sure. Yeah, man, that's such a good question. I think a lot of people disagree with me on a lot of things.
Really?
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not like a guru. I'm not like the anybody can do this kind of guy. I'm not. I think that anybody can make money, but I know that it's not for everybody.
Right.
Dude, I'd have to go back and listen to some of these because I say it all the time. Like, a lot of people wouldn't agree with me on this. But dude, you put me on the spot, and so I can't remember.
No, you're fine. Because I everything that we've talked about tonight, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And so, like one thing that comes to mind is when I'm talking with people, and I say that you can't sell everybody like that, because that's, and if you're a sales guru, whatever that means, you can sell anything to anybody. Everybody needs my product, and that's not the case, man. Like, a good salesman knows when to walk away. So that's one that like, and a lot of people will be like, "Oh, you just didn't do the right thing. Like, you can sell my product to everybody. You just didn't do something right." I'm like, "No, homie. Like, they didn't want what I'm buying, and I'm not gonna waste my time if they don't want it. Like, I'm gonna move on."
I think that goes back to a lot of what we talked about earlier, the confidence versus arrogance.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Your product might be the bee's knees. Yeah, it might be the best thing ever, but like, Sally down the street just really might not need it.
Yeah, and that's not a big deal. Yeah. But yeah, there's, as far as like business advice, I'm also very pragmatic in my business advice that I give people. So, like in interviews, like if we're interviewing like a sales guy, like a lot of things that people just, if you walk into a sales interview, they'll tell you like all of your income potential, like, you can make $1 million, and that's why you need to come sell. And when I was in an interview, bro, I'd be like, "Hey, look, homie, if you don't have like 1 or 2 months of savings that you can cover all your bills, I wouldn't jump into sales right now because there's a learning curve."
Right.
You know what I mean? And I would lose some really good candidates because they would be like, "Ah, yeah, you're right. I knew they could make it. If they could make it past 2 or 3 months,
that'd be good.
They'd be really good." But I understand too that time isn't always on our side. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have 2 months worth of income, money saved up.
Yeah.
And I need money right now. And I tell people, like, you can come get it right now. Like, in this sales gig, you can come make $1,000 in one day. Okay. But you can also not.
Yeah, you can make.
So I just want, and I would tell people, I'd just be really pragmatic with people. Really real with people. Like, yes, it can happen, and no, it can't happen.
See, I firmly believe, though, that way of thinking is going to be what stays consistent, and the old way of thinking is going to die off. Because it's not fair to put people in those situations, whether they're a good candidate or not, just by saying, oh, dude, you could walk away a millionaire if you just come in. Because, you know what? Is it a possibility? For sure. Mm-hmm. Is it likely? Maybe. Yeah. But is it going to be something that you have to learn? 100%.
Yeah, and so I would tell people that, like, I think I'd be like, hey, I think you'd kill it. But I also know it's a learning curve. And I also know that people, when they start selling desperate, I'm a sales guy, so that's why I'm using these. But if people can feel that you're desperate for something, that turns them off, because that's how our brain works. Our brains have a fight or flight instinct.
Absolutely.
And that triggers whenever we feel this, right? Now, if I feel that you're awkward and uncomfortable, that triggers my fight or flight, right? Now, you could be awkward or uncomfortable because you don't know it. You're a really nice guy, but you might not be confident in the message that you're trying to convey to me, right? In a sales environment.
Sure.
I don't know that, right? As a consumer, I don't know that. So all I see, if I'm using me as an example, is a big old fat white guy, bald with a beard, 6 foot 260. You know what I mean? Like, that's scary, bro. And if that guy walks up to me and he's really nervous, and his body language tells me he's not, something's off, I'm out. Yeah. Like, that's my primal instinct, is to get the heck out or fight, right? And if you don't run, you're going to fight. Yeah. And I don't want either one of those. No. You know what I'm saying? So people got to be really confident in what they're doing. And it takes a minute to get that. So that's why I would tell people, like, you'll be really good once you get past the growing pains, once you get past the awkwardness, once you know a few things, you're going to be really good. Do you have enough time?
So did you get your sales start knocking doors? Did you do like door-to-door sales?
I never did door-to-door. I did car sales. That's where I started. And so I had to learn how to, I had to learn how to make my body language different, dude. Yeah. Because you could scare people.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I walked up to you and I was nervous, bro, if somebody looked like me and walked up to me like that, I'd be like, we're not going in there. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But if you got a guy who's confident and they can walk good and their body language is calm and they're looking you in the eye and they're shaking your hand and they're doing the thing, they're mirroring you, like, that's easy.
Yeah, I did some door-to-door sales too, and I think that was a lot of the first learnings that I had to do, was like being a bigger guy. Like,
not be scary looking.
Actually, for the stream, funny enough, this is the first time that I've shaved my beard in like a while. Like, it was like down to here, and
sweet.
I've always been a bigger, heavy-set, bearded guy. Like, trying to learn that starting off knocking doors was very weird, because like, no one wants me inside their house.
Yeah, dude. And so a lot of people, back to your question, would disagree with me on that. And I'm okay with people disagreeing with me.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely not a negative thing. Like, people.
Yeah, dude. Like, man. Yeah. I don't care. But there's more. I'm just not thinking about it. because.
Well, I think to go back to the start of our conversation, one thing that I agree with, and I think a lot of people would, but you said people would disagree with, is like, shooting for that goal of being like a Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. A lot of people disagree with me when I say that.
It's cool. I think that the Jeff Bezos or the Joe Rogan is like those pipe dreams.
They're mentors. They're good to look up to. I'm not saying don't look up to them.
For sure.
I'm not saying don't learn from them.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I study Joe Rogan. I went back and started listening to episode 1 11 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, I study it and I look at, and I love that. Do I want to be a Joe Rogan podcaster extraordinaire? Not really.
No.
Even though he does all the things that I like, and he's a really cool guy, and I'm sure he's happy as shit.
No, sure.
You know what I'm saying? But that's not me, and I'm cool with that. I'm really good with that. And if it happens, it's kind of like what I'm trying to tell people is don't force things. Mm-hmm. When I say like, you don't have like, the model for my podcast is, where we meet everyday people doing extraordinary things. What I mean by that is like, I don't force it. I don't want you to force it. Yeah. Like if you do end up being the next Jeff Bezos, amazing. Awesome. But why do people quit after 6 months? Because they try to force it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I just don't want you to force it. Like, just be happy. If it happens, I'm not saying it can't. If it happens, dude, right on, bro. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It.
Congratulations.
But if it doesn't, I also don't want you to feel like a failure.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't want you to quit early because you tried to force it. I just want you to love the journey. I want you to love the story, and I want you to love what you're doing, and I want you to embrace the suck and all those things. You know what I mean? I don't want people to lose their mental health because they weren't. Yeah. Warren Buffett or Jeff Bezos.
And we can close out on mental health because I think it's a really important subject to be talking about, especially in 2020. Like,
yeah,
you really have to, especially during COVID, especially during a recession, a depression.
Yeah.
Every day is unknown. We could wake up and there could be 1 million cases of COVID in Utah. We don't know.
Yeah.
Everything's so random right now. Like, if you're on your dream and you start feeling these bad thoughts, or you might feel like your mental health is not at a state that it should be, reach out to somebody.
Yeah, dude, for real.
Friends, family, professionals, everybody. Like, it's not a hard subject, but it's not supposed to be an easy subject to talk about.
No, I know. I was actually a crisis counselor.
Oh, really?
For the crisis text line.
That's amazing.
So I got to talk about that a lot, and by the way, anybody can be a crisis counselor. Yeah. You need a couple referrals, and you got to pass a certification, and you got to give them a year. Yeah. But you can do it. That's a great way to volunteer. And it's also a great way to learn how to deal with it in your own community. But as far as where I come from, I guess you could say that I come from a place of trying to preserve that, because the things that I try to teach people are very much to like keep you sane. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna suck, but it's gonna be really fun. Don't try to force it. A lot of mental health that I've experienced comes from people having unreal expectations.
Yeah.
That's certainly not the only case, right? There is a lot of biological things that happen with mental health that we can't control.
Yeah.
So medication is necessary. Therapy is necessary. Meditation and mindfulness should be on the menu, right? But I think I think you're not giving yourself a fighting chance when you have unreal expectations. Yes. I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, so just be happy. Don't force it. Know that it's going to be hard and you're not going to know what to do. And you know what I mean? Don't go into it with, I have to make $1 million, otherwise I failed. Like, that's not healthy.
Not very not healthy.
Yeah.
And as someone who, has people who have gone through some real struggles and I've gone through, I want to say thank you for doing the crisis work. I mean, that's, it's amazing.
It's fun.
And like we really need to continue to break down that stigma of like, just because you're going to therapy or counseling or you're talking to people, it doesn't make you weak. No, you're not a weak person. Man. Like, if you're asking for help, it doesn't mean you're weak. It's quite the opposite.
Oh,
You're so strong and so well aware of yourself that you need help. That's amazing. Like, it's important. And, and I always talk about, like, men, we've always been told growing up that
right.
don't show those emotions. Right. Stay strong.
Well, in Utah, then more men die by suicide than women do.
Yeah.
And it's because they have these unreal expectations. Most of the time. I use a lot of generalizations in this conversation, knowing that it's not like that, right?
For case by case, but there is a generalization.
But there is a little bit of people, and when I went through, my own mental health struggles, people telling me that my expectations needed to be managed really helped me.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, as a father, it's okay to have bad father days. It's okay to not know what to do for your kids. It's okay. You know what I mean? Like, these kinds of things. As a husband, like, my wife and I went through marriage counseling. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
And dude, therapy, there's nothing wrong with therapy.
No.
I've learned some of the best things in my life from therapy.
Same here.
So dude, yeah, go to therapy. Go talk to somebody, man. Empathy goes a long way.
It really does.
And I'm always there to talk to. Anybody can find me on Facebook.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect way to end the show.
Cool, man.
Dalton, plug everything that people can find you. And anyone listening to this live or YouTube or any of the platforms we're on, the links will be down below. But where can people find you? Yeah,
man. You can find. I think the best way to interact with me is just on my personal Instagram page at Dalton K. Jensen. You can find our CBD store at happiestmed.com, HEPIUSMED.com. You can find The Thinking Project on any place you listen to podcasts. And then I'm all over Facebook, The Thinking Project Pod, Dalton Jensen. But yeah, man, I appreciate you being on here, man. I love it, dude. It was great.
Yeah, thank you very much. And everyone watching, thank you. Make sure to go check it out.
That's right. Look at these comments came in, bro.
Yeah, it's been a fun one. All right, everyone watching live, thank you very much. Have a good night. We'll see you on the next one.